Hi, welcome to Enter the Bunker, where we launch you into thriving. Each week we talk about a different virtue that can be used as a building brick to build your own personal bunkers. We share personal stories, as well as tips and tricks to help you thrive instead of survive. So sit down, relax, and enter the bunker.
Hello and welcome to Enter the Bunker. This week's building brick is hope. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Jonathan.
And we are going to go over the meaning of hope.
Ooh, yeah.
The meaning, looking into the future with trust and faith, optimism in the face of adversity. So that's the meaning. Looking into the future with trust and faith, optimism in the face of adversity.
Right.
Hope is not my favorite building brick.
Why not?
Maybe you can change my mind on it, but I don't know. Looking into the future with trust and faith, yeah, I get that, but I feel like stop hoping for something and just go do it.
Okay, so let's say that you just have this attitude of go do it, stop hoping for. I can understand, but what's going to compel you to actually go do it in the first place?
Me wanting to do it.
But what you're going to do, is it going to be driven by fear or is it going to be driven by hope?
Excitement.
Excitement, which comes from,
I guess, hope.
Hope,
Yeah.
Right? Because if it was, so the opposite of trust and faith is fear.
Okay.
Right? So if you have, and that's like an optimism in the face of adversity. So if you are in the midst of adversity and you're filled with fear, then hope is not there. Right? And so if you're actually going to go do something out of fear, what kind of things are you going to do?
Probably not good things.
Well, you're going to do things that are going to be almost like reactionary to whatever's around you.
They're not going to be like thought out things.
Yeah, it's going to be
spur of the moment.
Yeah, exactly. So it will almost be like instinctual.
So maybe I'm not a fan of it because it's not that I'm not a fan of it, but maybe I'm just not a building brick that's my favorite because maybe I just do hope well.
Do you think that it's because you think of hope as something that is, because you saying you should just go do it.
Yeah.
You got this idea in your head, it seems like, that hope indicates that you are someone who is not going to take action. Is that it? Like to just kind of sit there and go, oh, hopefully everything will be okay. Is that what's in your head when you hear hope? Or
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd rather see action taken.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
that's exactly it.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, so I can understand that, and a lot of people would have that impression of hope.
Yeah.
I believe that that's not hope, though. I think that is, what's another word for it? I would call that something more like, I would call that something. That's not being hopeful.
No.
That's almost like being wishful thinking.
Yes.
Okay.
I guess so.
So it's just like.
Well, then people need to be like, I need to be wishful thinking that this is going to happen, not hopeful. Or hopefully this happens.
Right, but in order to really have trust and faith in optimism in the future, and to have hope, that takes action.
Right.
So if you aren't taking action based on that hope, then that's not hope. That's wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Because you're just kind of, and I'm sure there's lots of sayings around it. It's like, oh, hope for the best, expect the worst, and all this kind of stuff, right?
I was actually thinking of something, that's it.
Yeah. So people have sayings around that, and it's almost like this passive sort of attitude. And that's wishful thinking.
Yes.
Okay. And that's okay, like if you just want to be in la la land. But the truth is that when it comes to being to having trust and faith in the future and being optimistic and having hope, it's like it's almost like imagine that there's just this like amazing thing that's on the horizon and you need to get there.
Yeah,
right?
Have the drive. Hope gives you the drive.
Hope gives you the drive. And so what are you doing? So you see that thing on the horizon, you have trust and faith you're going to be able to make it, even though you're going to have to go through the valley of hell to get there. You move through it, right? On the other hand, wishful thinking is just like, oh, there's that nice thing over there. Well, maybe one day I'll be able to get there, right? Doesn't happen.
No.
Right? So there's a big difference in terms of like hope is actually taking action. what you're talking about is wishful thinking, which is why you didn't like it.
Cool. I like this.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so now we're going to get into some quotes.
Woohoo.
We got 5 quotes here. Hope is being able to see that there is light despite all of the darkness. Desmond Tutu, human rights activist. Hope lies in dreams, in imagination, and in the courage of those who dare to make dreams into reality. Jonas Salk, American scientist. We need some Canadian people in here. Wait, does American mean United States of America, or does it mean all North America?
Actually, if they say American scientist, that could be even South America, technically.
Yeah, true.
They could be out of Chile.
Yeah, okay, cool. It is difficult to say what is impossible, for the dream of yesterday is the hope of today and the reality of tomorrow. Robert H. Goddard, American engineer, professor, physicist, and inventor. Holy, he did a lot. Hope means hoping even when things seem hopeless. Gilbert K. Chesterton, English writer and philosopher. And finally, let your hopes, not your hurts, shape your future. Robert H. Schuller. Ah, perfect.
It's German.
Yeah. Schuller. American televangelist, motivational speaker, and author.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let your hopes, not your hurts, shape your future.
Yeah.
Why is that your favorite?
I feel like there could be 2 paths that you, kind of what we were just talking about, even like wishful thinking versus, and you can take one path, and that's what would, how do I explain this? Yeah. So let your hopes, not your hurts, shape your future. I guess there's 2 paths you could go. If you've been hurt, you'll probably stay on wishful thinking the entire time. But even if you have been hurt and you can still hope, and you're going to go that one path, that's where your future is taking you. You're always going forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I interpret it a little bit different from that.
Okay.
So when he says, let your hopes, not your hurts, shape your future.
Yeah.
The wishful thinker doesn't shape their future.
Right.
They allow others to influence them.
Yes.
Right. So they have, everybody else that's telling them what to do. They're just like, oh, I don't know what to do. Do you think I should do this? Do you think that? And then start taking in everybody else telling them what to do.
Yeah.
Right. So they're the wishful thinkers.
Right.
So they don't really take action for themselves. But if you let your hopes, not your hurts, the hurts are fear. Right. It's like if you've been hurt, what happens? You fear being hurt again.
Right.
So then you start to make decisions based on those hurts. You're making them based on fears.
Right.
So if you make it out of hope, though, it's just like, I had that experience. Yes, I got hurt, but I'm hopeful that that's not going to happen again. I've learned from that. Then I'm going to have that shape my future. That makes a big difference, right? So so what he's saying there, I think, is just a little different from what you said in terms of like allowing the hopes to shape your future instead of your hurts, because those 2 are action items.
Yes, right. The other one I kind of like too was the first one. Hope is being able to see that there's a light despite all of the darkness. I think that kind of ties into the one that we just discussed as well, because with hope, there is no dark. Well, there is darkness, but your hope shines brighter than the darkness.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, they always say like there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
It's like, and there's another one that it's always the darkest hour before the light of dawn.
Yeah. That's a good one.
So, and then there's always a silver lining around every cloud, and there's all these sayings to say the same thing. That basically says that allow yourself to be able to, like, despite all the darkness, like look at the light.
Let the hope shine through.
Let the hope shine through. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So some info on hope. Hope is the belief that things will get better, the deep feeling that what today isn't how it will end up. No matter what today looks like to you, if you believe, if you know in your heart of hearts that tomorrow will be better, it can give you the strength to get through adversity. You can even think long-term, next week, next month, even next year. Hope is not a passive exercise in wishing, but an active approach to your life. It also isn't delusion or denial. Hope doesn't ignore the adversity you are going, nor does it make excuses. What hope does acknowledge is the situation, and it works to find the best way to cope. At the end of the day, hope shows up and helps you work through the hard stuff and believe that something better is possible. Don't just believe, though. Act.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny that it says that, because I had already read through this, obviously, in advance. And I never actually realized that after having our conversation and me talking about hope earlier at the beginning of the show, the sentence here, hope is not a passive exercise in wishing, but an active approach to your life.
Exactly.
That's it right there. Pretty much exactly what you said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The one thing that...
I never clued into that, though, before.
Yeah. The one thing about acknowledging a situation that works, acknowledging a situation, it works to find... What hope does is it acknowledges a situation and then finds a way to work best to cope with it.
Right.
I'm not a fan of the concept of coping with things. I'm a fan of the concept of changing things.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So some people will I pray, they'll start to pray, please help me cope with my situation, sort of thing. But you should be praying to change your ways,
or
to change your situation, to change, right?
Yeah.
So coping is where it becomes a passive act again, where it's just like, oh, I'm going to be beaten up by the world and I just have to handle it, versus I'm going to change what's happening here, right? And it goes back to that, what's that meme I've heard recently? It's just like, I've stopped accepting the, oh gosh, I gotta say. I know. So this meme I've heard recently is just that I've stopped accepting the things I cannot change, and now I change the things I cannot accept. Yeah. Is what hope does, right? Yeah. And so that it's much more a proactive, positive approach versus like, oh, I can't change this, I'm just gonna have to cope with it.
I've never actually thought of the word coping like that before. Yeah,
I'm just not a fan of it. So that little, actually the reason why I picked on that word so hard is because when I was younger, I used to listen to Arrested Development.
Yeah.
It's a
band,
a rap group. Yeah. Right? So, and one of their songs is actually Searching for Religion is what it's called.
Okay.
Right. And he's actually talking about how churches would tell the congregation, oh, pray so you can cope with the ways things are today, and pray so that you can be able to cope with everything. And they're just like, that's not what should happen. It should be changed. Right. And so that really stuck in my mind. And so every time I hear the word cope now, that impacts me. So all because of Arrested Development. It's their fault.
I guess I kind of, like I said, I've never thought of coping that way, but you kind of, I understand it completely. But me being me, I'm like, maybe it's okay to cope for 1 or 2 days, but then take action. I don't know. I just feel like sometimes people just need when they're coping through something, maybe something's gone crazy and they just need a day to cope, and then they can hope and take action. Do you know what I mean?
That's possible, yes.
Yeah. So I guess just don't cope for a long time.
Right. Yeah. Right. I think that, so you can almost think of it the first stage is to cope.
Yes.
Right. And
exactly.
then the next stage is to move to hope.
Yes.
And then be able to actually take action.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you just continue to cope, it's almost like wishful thinking.
Right.
Right. Yeah. It's the same thing.
It is. Yeah. All right. This has really opened up the word hope for me. Thank you so much for joining us today for part 1 of Hope. Stay tuned for episode 2 of How to Embrace Hope, and we will see you then.
We hope to see you.
Thank you for listening to Enter the Bunker. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, where you can share your story and also look at behind the scenes of how we make our podcast. You can watch the video version of this podcast on YouTube by simply searching Enter the Bunker. Tune in next time as we launch into thriving.